So Market Research 101 essentially says that whenever you're doing like an interview or a focus group, you start broad and then you get into more specific topics, right? So you want to understand who the person is, the respondent, get to know them as people. You want to think about how they interact with the category, their perceptions of the brand, and then what is their specific experience like with that brand. So it could be them dealing with the product, the packaging, the advertising, whatever that specific experience is as part of the study. That would come at the tail end because you want to start broad and go narrow. And what I want to share with you is the idea that this is helpful, but it's also completely insufficient. So as you go through and you structure your discussion guide, this is a good way to open things up. You want to go through all of these topics in sequential order and get to this experience part of the conversation. But where people make a mistake is they end the conversation here. So this is where the interview ends. This is where the focus group ends. Thank you very much. So go to the front room. You'll get your check for coming. Goodbye. Have a good night, right? But this is only the first half of the conversation. What you really need to do is go through this progression, understand about the experience, and then you have to flip the funnel, right? And then you have to, again, you want to think about the experience here, but then you want to start to understand how does this impact their thoughts on the brand. Having had a conversation in depth about the experience that they're having with that product or with that piece of communication, you then want to understand, well, what does that mean for the brand? How does that change the way you think about the brand? You also want to look at the category. Like, how can this experience change the way they think about the category or change the category altogether? And then finally, as a person, what sort of impact can this experience have on them as people? How can it make their life better? How can it make them closer to whatever they aspire to in life? So you're still covering the same topics, but you have to go through broad to narrow. And then once you get to that conversation around the experience, you have to save time to flip the funnel and start to talk about how that experience impacts the brand, the category, and the person. If you leave your interviews at this point, you collect your data, this is all helpful, but you're missing the opportunity to understand how that experience connects back to the person so that you can really get a good gauge on how powerful that experience is and the impact that it can have, not just on that individual, but the category as a whole. So you always want to make sure that you get the full story and you don't quit halfway through.